Okay, we're live. Welcome to another live stream, Retainer Designer. Sorry for the grinding in the background. That's my wife. She's working. She's not gonna stop.
Do I need to,
No, I'm giving you a hard time. They can still hear me. So let's get set up here, and I'm going to set up some views here. Oh, let me take off my headphones so I can hear. Sorry, still setting up. Running a little late today, like usual. I mean, what would be a Retainer Designer live stream without me running late? So today we're going to be working on some 3D printed models, and I'm just going to go over how I prep and bend on these 3D printed models. I've gone over some of these tips with some of y'all before, but just wanted to keep going. Do some more. So. So those that are new here, my name is Cade. This is Retainer Designer. This is my Thursday live stream where I try to, where's my video sources? Oh, one of my cameras went to sleep, of course. The beauties of live stream, gotta love it. Okay, so in case you're new here, be sure to subscribe, click the notification. I try to live stream every Thursday around noonish Central Standard Time. So if you want to tune in, make sure you subscribe, and you'll get alerts if you click the notification bell. And I'm going to try to do these more consistently every Thursday around noon. So pay attention, and you'll get alerts if you do that. So today again we're going to be working on some 3D printed models. These models are actually very special because they took a trip. The doctor who my wife's laughing back there. The doctor who sends these he prints his own, and the doctor who sends these is 3 hours away, and he shipped some UPS, and he shipped them last week. But these models are special because they went to Alabama, then Mississippi, then back to Alabama, and then it finally came. So they took a little road trip. So it kind of ruined my live streaming plans today. But I thought, well, you know what? I'll show everybody what I do to prep these for acrylic and for wire bending, and some little tricks I've learned from not just what I've made up, but what I have learned from all of you guys out there. And that starts with, oh, Sarah, can you grab me one of those untrimmed patties? Yeah. So one of the downfalls of the 3D printed models is you want to save as much resin as possible because it's, no, one of these. You want to save as much resin as possible, but what that produces is a very small model. Oh, you're gonna give me this one?
why? Well, I can't give you the
No, that's right. It looks like an ear, actually.
grab the first one.
So, one of the downfalls of a 3D printed model is, again, you try to save as much resin as possible, which makes it hard to hold, hard to bend. This is my favorite model holder. As you can see, it doesn't fit in here very well. It's got to be perfectly done. So what I have found I do is I take, whenever you duplicate one of, so I still duplicate when I do metal appliances, and when I pour it up in plaster, I usually have some left over, and like this. And so I pour up, I just make a patty, make it flat, and then when it sets up, I trim them. As you can see, I've used these a few times, And what these become are the base for my models. And I just super glue or use Zap It to hold them on the base or hold them onto the back of the model so that they then fit in my model holder and I can hold easier to sprinkle. I'm going to adjust this camera real quick. Sorry. There we go. So I take Zap It, which you can get from any dental supply place, and I have my accelerator in this little jar. All I do is I add just a little bit of, just little dots all around here. And then I'll just take this, spray it to activate it. And so, there we go. It's on there. And it'll stay on there until you remove it. So as you can see, I have used these a lot, and what I usually do is just put my glasses on. I'll scratch this. Just clean it off. Put this back on. Add a little bit of Zap It on there. Wait a few seconds for that to set. That's what I love about this Zap It base and accelerator is it only takes a few seconds. So as you can see, it doesn't take too long. You got to make sure that it had printed flat. You can use your trimmer things here. Make sure it's nice and flat. Depends on how you print it. Again, these are printed. The doctor's office prints them themselves and then ships them to me. So I get what I get. But they do a good job. Let that sit for a second. That's it. So this one, it's obviously a repair or remake. Let's see if I can. It's already a repair or remake, so I'm gonna go ahead and wax out some undercuts and go ahead and put my separator on here. This is the doctor. Now last week, you have to check my channel, we did a clear bow, and I did it on the same 3D printed model, and I was explaining this doctor likes the labial bow to be 3-3, sorry, 4-4 to go over the bicuspids, and the acrylic to go 3-3. So I've been experimenting with the clear bow to get it to just to see if it's a good alternative for this doctor. So now you just take your separator of choice, paint your separator, there we go. And we'll let that set. And so this certain separator is, well, people would quit calling me. Come on. Okay, so now we're ready to update the other one. Now I'll just use wax like I would on a plaster model. see, since they're getting labial acrylic on the facial of this, I just use wax like normal. Now, if this was thermoforming or something like that, I would probably use this undercut wax that I have that is a little bit more high temperature. This stuff right here is from Nay undercut wax, high melting, and I use that for when I do thermoforming, and I block out undercuts using that. Ah, everybody's calling me now. You gotta love these professional live streams. Let's see if I can refresh this page. Sorry about that. Somebody was calling on this phone right here. I guess it's still got a good angle there. There we go. So I like to seal it down onto this plaster model. That way it can the acrylic doesn't get underneath it. And again, I will put some separator. You can still draw your lines if you're a line drawer like me. I like to mark where my wires are going to go. Again, this is a 4-to-4 labial bow. This is, usually I put them on the 6s. This patient's obviously missing his or her 6s. So I'm going to put them on the 7s. And there we go. Now this is one thing that I have to do with these that I usually don't have to. Usually I can just use a knife. When I go to prep these, I have to use a round burr. I usually do this under suction, but there we go. Get a little brush this off. And it looks like the doctor reset a tooth right here. Now sometimes those gums are puffy and I think they're going to get in the way. So I'll go ahead and grind those down, get them flat so my wires don't hang on them. Let me finish waxing this up. And one thing to look for is this rugae here. There we go. And we'll do a little separating. There we go. All right. Oh, I didn't paint the front of this, did I? Oh yeah, I did. Just dried faster. Still feel like this camera is off a little bit. There. Now I use 032 wire. Where's my marker? There we go. bend this. What I'll probably do is, now that I've shown you how I prep these 3D printed models, the ones that are real thin that need a base. So as you can see, it fits in my model holder nicely now. Just snug as a bug in there. So now I'm just going to go through bending this real quick. Shouldn't take me too long. And there's nothing different with this. It's the same techniques as bending on a regular plaster model, but it is just on a 3D printed model now. Get my favorite bird beak pliers here. Alright, got that side down, work my way around. I don't know if my chat's working or not. Just keep bending around. I've got to make sure. For some reason I can't get this centered. Make my mark. Make my vertical bend. Got my loop forming pliers on there. Bend. Oh, I didn't bend that totally vertical. Here's the center of this camera. This is the center. Okay. I'm going crazy here. Alright. For those that are just joining us, it's a quick little live stream I'm doing. Doing these little rush cases I got to get out today. This is a doctor who sent these cases last week. UPS messed up. They took a trip to Alabama and Mississippi first before they came to my lab. They're a little bit of world travelers, as I guess you could say, so I got to get these out. Be nice. I got a couple that are going out anyway, and I thought I'd just share my tips on how I prep for these 3D printed models that I get from doctors that are very thin as far as a base. And that's one of the downsides of 3D printing, is you don't want to print a big base. It's too expensive and it takes too long to print. So you want to print with a thin base, but then what do you do when you're wire bending and when you're acrylicing? And so this is my simple little trick, are these plaster patties that I use, and I just zap it, super glue it, I guess you could say, to it temporarily while I'm constructing it, and then when we get it out of the pressure pot, they just pop right off of these patties. I cut these a little shorter. Put my little acrylic bins in there. And there we go. get my tiny pliers here. Sometimes crossing the occlusion between the bicuspids is kind of tricky. You got to go in and out. It's like 2 points of contact, not just one. So I think we're good. Let me wax this down. Again, this is just simple sticky wax. Just like you would use on a plaster model. What? What do you mean? Oh, I thought the chat wasn't refreshing, so I refreshed it and it started playing on my end. There we go. So that holds the wires on pretty good. So let me get the clasp on real quick. Use the same size wire, this 032 wire, and I'm gonna make what the doctor calls a finger clasp. Think of it like a ball clasp without a ball on it. And so I'm going to take a rubber wheel here. I'm just going to round off this end, make it so it's smooth and it doesn't poke the gums. And then I'm going to just lay it in. Now this is one that I've previously made a retainer on. I assume the kid has lost it. So I've already prepped in between the teeth, kind of like you would for a ball clasp. And earlier, if you need to rewind, I prepped it with a ball burr. One of these other cases. Now, something I just realized I did is I didn't put my second coat of separator on here. And if you hear some noises in the back, that's the wife. She is finishing up some retainers for us. There we go. I'm going to pop this off real quick and put a couple drops of separator. Alright. I'll let that dry while I finish bending this. Other side. Make sure this is the right. I got my little calipers here. Yep, 032. I'm going to take my burr, round it off. Oh, Jeff Haywood. I've been making retainers for over 40 years. Never bent a labial wire like that. Very cool seeing someone else make one. Jeff, how do you do it? I've seen different ones where they bend it flat, like the loops. They'll bend it from the front this way. I tend to bend it from the back this way. That always seems weird when you see someone else bend a wire and you wonder, where'd they learn that? And I don't even know where I learned this. I guess lab school or the doctor I learned under, maybe he taught me how to bend. But I've seen different ways of bending that kind of blow my mind, but it gets the job done. Start at the loop. So you start here. Do you start in the palette, then go to the loop? And then around, loop, and around? Or just start with the loop, and then work your way to the inside. Like I am a little backwards. I do the arch, then I do one loop, bend it to the lingual, and then I bend around, which is already bent from before, and do my second loop, bend it around. Now there is some, I know mine has some drawbacks, because when you get over here, you could throw everything off if you don't do it right. So I'm hopefully soon I'll be able to live stream other people on my channel. And so someone like Jeff, maybe you could take a video of you bending your labial bow, and then I could present it on my, we could talk about it live while we're playing it, and you could kind of tell us what your technique is, because everybody's got their own techniques, what works best for them. And with 40 years, you know, you probably got that thing down pat. I'm not near that. I'm 20s, I guess. I guess I started my lab in 2004. So I don't even know how long that's been. Definitely been doing it full time since 2004. Now here is the second tip is coming up, and this is actually a tip I learned while live streaming. And actually, I think my friend Steve Zara Dental Lab, his YouTube channel, he featured it on his Instagram or something like that. Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. There we go. All right, I'm happy with that.
Now, here's the other tip. It's a hot glue gun. I got this from Amazon. Get a good camera angle here.
It's got stringy stuff on here. So it's in my Amazon link below. I think there's one. If there's not there, it will be there by the end of the day. But it's a pretty heavy duty hot glue gun. What I was doing in my first live stream. Oh, Jeff, yes, second way you said is the way I learned. You can hear me. Holy crap, I'm thinking the same. Yeah. Okay, so the first tip was 3D printed model was these patties like this that
I use and reuse over and over again. So when my wife takes them out of the pressure pot, she takes them off and puts them on the models. And so this is my first tip. I take these patties that when I have extra stone from pouring up models, pouring up impressions, I'll just make a patty, and then I'll trim it down with a model trimmer to a basic shape like this. And then I just zap it to it, and
that's it. That's all there is to it. Wasn't a big tip, but just maybe something you could use if I feel like I'm sinking down. Just something you could use if it help you in your lab. You know, again, if you got any tips or tricks for the same thing, leave them in the comments below. I'm sure Jeff has some. You can email me a link, like if you take a video of you bending your labial bow, email it to retainerdesigner@gmail.com, and I'll get in contact with you and we'll review it together on a live stream or something. So that'd be cool to do. So here is, I keep it on 60 watts. This is just regular old hot glue gun. But I did get a heavy duty one, not those little free ones that come in a kit. But then I even got these big Gorilla Glue sticks, all temperature. They've done a really good job. They're 8-inch by 0.343 inches. So that's what I have in here. So let me see, make sure this comes into focus. I just kind of take my time. Now, I'll only do this when there's labial acrylic. For some reason, you know, if you're like me, you do labial acrylic, and then while the acrylic's still wet or in its gelled stage, you can cut the labial acrylic so that it doesn't take too much trimming. I'll just take a knife or something and I'll cut the labial acrylic. but for some reason on here I can't cut into, if this was stone I could cut into the stone and make a good separation, but for some reason I can't make a good cut on a 3D printed model. So what I was doing on that first live stream, and I'll try to link it below, I was using utility wax, so something like this. Utility wax strips, which are easy to apply, but they get really messy when they start to melt when you get it out of the pressure pot. So my wife really likes this because this just peels out, and hopefully I can show that in another video. It just peels out, and then you're left with a nice, I can actually get that a little closer. Let me see if I can. And one good thing about putting heels on these patties is when you need to let this cool, you don't want to lay it on its back, because then the hot glue will roll forward. Or if you lay it on its teeth, it will roll against the labial bow. So I actually set it on its heel while it cools off. And this does take a while to cool. One of the bad things about doing this with hot glue is you can't sprinkle this immediately, because the hot glue will actually set up your labial acrylic really fast, and you'll get bubbles in there. So I'm going to set that to the side right now. I'll sprinkle this in front of everybody so that everybody can see it. I'm going to go ahead and go into prep. Jeff, even using the model holder seems very hard. I have one, maybe I should try using it. I almost can't do it without the model holder, which may be a disadvantage. I see a lot of people not using model holders, and I don't know, maybe you don't need this patty method if you don't use a model holder. I love being hands-free, where I can hold it at this angle and it stays.
Like this. I can hold it at this angle, and I can bend my wire and it stays where it's supposed to be. Or I can hold it like this, so like when I'm doing bonded linguals. To me, it's too much work to have it here, and then when I need to, I flip it. Although I still do that with the model holder, but it seems more natural to me. I don't know where I picked that model holder from. I think we use Surveyors. If you're into partial dentures or anything like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. We use Surveyors. I do paint separator on the occlusal surface because you will get some spillover. Let me go ahead and paint this one too. Alright, let that dry. So the instructions are, I'm using something besides official model separator. And I'm supposed to put 2 coats. What kind of torch are you using on 3D models? No torches. I do have this torch, which I picked up from Steve Zara's Amazon page store, which is a great little blazer torch. But we duplicate our models. So whenever I have to do soldering on here, we'll duplicate first. I do have one trick for soldered C's on the bicuspids. It usually... let me pop this open real quick. It usually, it's just a little small area to solder right here. So I'll actually, and I'll do maybe my next video I can do on how to solder C's on a 3D printed model. So I don't duplicate those. That seems like a lot of work just for a little small soldering. But my eventual goal is a laser welder, and then you just build it like normal. When you're done polishing and trimming and polishing it, you put it back on the model, bend your wire, and then laser weld it. I have an interview for the Puck 3D or Puck 3, Puck 5 from one of the conferences 2 years ago, and where a guy from Inman Orthodontics showed how he used a Puck laser welder. But again, I have a little method where I duplicate this area, then I grind out the 3D printed resin, and I fill it in with stone and put the matrix back on, which then duplicates this area in stone, just this little small area that I solder.
me get this bent real quick. I'm still waiting on that to cool, that hot glue. It takes a while for that thing to cure. Cure, to cool down. So, see, I'm resting my hand against the model holder. I've probably handicapped myself. So if my model holder is ever lost, I probably can't bend a wire. Whereas you guys that don't use a model holder, you can bend it anywhere. You could go outside. You know, I always have to take my model holder wherever I go. There we go. What you working on, Sarah? Cleaning out impression trays. Always fun. Micro torch from Great Lakes. You can solder clasp with a flame the size of a sharpened pencil. Yes. I would like a laser welder. Yeah, that is a great, the micro torch, that's the one that uses, Jeff, is that the one that uses propane oxygen mix? Yeah, those are really great. And actually, you could probably get away with not doing that trick that I do. But since I got this huge torch, it's a little hard to manage. Oh, and a hydroflame. I got a couple of videos on me using a hydroflame, and that thing is the size of a pin. It's so tiny. I missed the hydroflame. That was at a lab I worked at. It was their hydroflame, so sadly I couldn't take it with me. But I did like that hydroflame. It's the same size. You can actually change out the tips. All right, where's my special? I guess I can't use it. I don't know what happened to it. Oh, I'm missing I use different of these number 7 wax things. I use different types for the different waxes I have. So I don't know if you can see in the picture, I have this yellow sticky wax that I hold wires with. I got the pink base plate wax I use to like reset teeth and fill in voids and stuff. And I don't like to mix them, so I use different number 7. Is this number 7? I don't know. All right, I got that first part bent. Let's go back to this. Let's finish this up. Yeah, so that's cooled down now. So I have a nice blocked area where acrylic won't get anywhere, and I like it being there because I can just sprinkle against it. I can actually sprinkle faster. Oxygen and MAP. What's MAP? Oxygen and MAPP. Oxygen and propane? All right, let's look up who this is, and let's sprinkle this real quick. There we go. Luminary purple. Let's get that out real quick. Luminary purple. And make sure I got all my tools that I need. Usually I don't sprinkle here, but I don't feel like moving my cameras around so you can see. But I'm going to stink up the lab. Yes, I will stink up the lab, but just for a little bit. Get some clear powder here. All right. Wonder if I'm going to change a setting real quick. Ow, 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 ow. All right. So, as you can see, I hold it with my left hand here, and now I have a nice big something to hold on to. See if I can get another model. As an example, I would have to hold like this if I didn't have this base on here, and my hand would cramp up. So I like having a nice base to hold on to while I sprinkle. So I usually do the labial acrylic first, and that's why I need that hot glue to be cure. I keep saying cured. I need it to be cool. And you see, I'm just piling up that acrylic right up against that hot glue. So I've made like a dam with the hot glue so it doesn't spread everywhere also, which is nice. So this is such a long span. I've always had issues with it, especially on 3D printed models. There's such a long span of labial acrylic. It's not like a lower 3:3 labial acrylic, which is almost flat across sometimes. This has a nice arc to it, so trying to get it to separate from a 3D model is very difficult. All right, I got that going. So now, I'll put the name in real quick. I've lost the name. There it is. Yeah. Let me insert. I like to put mine. Oops. I'm having an issue with this. There we go. Slide it underneath those wires. So I put a layer of acrylic down. I always got to keep an eye on this labial acrylic up front. So put a layer of acrylic down, put the wire on, and then I can put my luminary. Now one of the issues with this luminary powder that you'll notice is you'll have a little tendency to separate. See that line right there? And what I've come to realize is it's because of the big huge drops I'm using. See how the swirl pattern? Which is kind of cool. But if the kids don't ask for a swirl, they probably don't want one. So what I've started doing is using really tiny, like a shower of tiny little drops, which tends to help out. And flattening down with my finger helps to even out the clumps of color. And I'm going to let that sit. Again, keep an eye out. Put a little clear acrylic. I also like to, the reason I like to put clear under the wires is so I can see it when we go to bulk trim with the big green wheel that we have. So that way we don't accidentally trim through a wire. So I'm just using small drops. Just tends to counteract that clumping of the color pigments that happens. See, I did that too fast. There we go. Purples and blues are really bad about the color clumping. Sorry, Benzomatic Map Pro. I'm going to have to look that up. Benzomatic is what I had, my old one that I had before it stopped lighting on me. This thing, Benzomatic. And this started getting old real quick, trying to pull down that safety lever. I like this one. It doesn't have a safety lever. It's just rotate that, turn it on, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to slow down my drips It's a little cool today, so it has a tendency to slump. Now I take an X-Acto knife and I'll make my cuts so that trimming is a lot easier for Sarah. And it's because I love her. She's sitting right behind me staring at me. You're on your phone? You're shopping on Amazon? Speaking of, if you check below, there's an Amazon link in the description. And I have things like the items I use here, like this torch is there. And when you purchase something from there, it doesn't cost you any more, but they send a few pennies my way just for as a thanks for the referral. But most things that I use in the lab I have found on Amazon, which is pretty amazing. And so I have a store link. I don't know if it's there right now, but it'll show up later today. Well, this doctor does not like the acrylic to touch the 7, so I usually cut that short. And I want to cut this up here. Get a little scoop thing here and pull it through. I like to clean out. So that's the key, another key to getting this to separate off a 3D printed model. Many of the resins you use for 3D printed model is a sister component to the acrylic you're actually using, so they love to stick to each other. So you need a good separator, and you need good clean lines like here, so that when it's cured you can slide your knife under there and release it's kind of like a vacuum under there. Once you release it, it's good, but this adheres so well to the model, you got to be careful. So that's why I'm cleaning this out, making a nice clean line all the way around so I can get a knife under there. And again, when this cures, I can peel this out, the hot glue that I put on there. I can peel it out, and then I can separate the labial acrylic easily, because before you're stuck here and you're stuck here, it's almost like it's pinching it. It's extra grip on there, almost a mechanical retention more than anything. So getting the labial acrylic to separate first and then get the model off, that's key. So I'm going to put this in the pressure pot real quick. Alright, so as a review, some of the tips we've gone over on these small 3D printed models that don't have much of a base, that will cramp my hands trying to bend, or even if you don't have a model holder, trying to bend it on the table, there's not much there to it. And then trying to get it to attach to your model holder is hard to do. So when I pour up impressions, if I have extra plaster, these are free. It's actually almost great recycling, so you don't throw this away in the trash until it's been well used. Then I just trim it in my model trimmer to just some sort of, where it looks like a shape of a base. And you can flip them over and use both sides. Just take a knife, clean it up, and then I use Zap It to attach it to the base, and then accelerator, so I don't have to wait for it to set up, but it's on there really good. But a good knife in the right spot will pop this right off after you get it out of the pressure pot, no problem. And then my next is using a hot glue gun to make a dam for labial acrylic, so that the labial acrylic is easier to take off, and that hot glue just peels right out after you get it out of the pressure pot. Other than that, that is it. Hello from Brazil. Good afternoon. Sorry for the late start, but I'm trying to be more consistent with these live streams. So I'm going to end it there. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to get to them again. The Amazon link will be down below, and anything else, any other information, you can just ask down there. So until then, I will see y'all later, and happy bending.